Hello, welcome to what will be the first of a few different me reading the Hugo nominees vlogs. Like a full sentence. I'm doing vlogs of reading the Hugo nominees. It's almost mid-June and I am just really starting. I mean, I've read one of them before, earlier in the year, but now I'm going to be reading the rest. Yes, I know. So the first one I'm reading, I'm actually starting with the novellas, oddly enough. So I'm reading Fireheart Tiger. I just started it today and I'm about 40% of the way into it. Novellas are short. Novellas are like a little over 100 pages. I think this one is like right around 100 pages. And so far I'm liking this. I have not read from this author before, but this is both sapphic and dealing with like fire powers, the element of fire, some of that, and sort of like a pre-colonial Vietnam-esque world. So far so good. So far, and depending on how it goes, I can definitely see myself being interested in reading a like novel by this author. So we will see what I think about the rest of this. Hello, it is the next day and I just finished Fireheart Tiger. I would say like 3.5 out of 5 stars. One of the better novellas that I've read in which I didn't have like a connection to like another story that it was like a part of, you know, like it wasn't necessarily connected to a series or anything, and it was shorter than a lot of novellas that I've read. Usually they tend to be like 150, a little under 200. This was like about 100 pages. I will say this did feel like it was a smaller chunk of a larger story, and that was both good and bad. Like it definitely was like, oh, this is a story that sort of exists outside of even this, and there's more to it, but it's also like, okay, it feels like there's stuff like missing, there's more to it, and like this should be part of a full novel almost. But I was also interested enough in if it was a full novel. Like I would have read a full novel of like that story. So yeah, it's sapphic also, which is nice. One thing that did throw me off is the characters that sort of end up having a little bit of like feelings for each other, they refer to each other as like little and big sis, and I actually had to look that up and see that in Vietnamese culture you basically refer to people who are younger than you or older than you as like little brother or big sister or whatever, and that's not like a sibling term of endearment. That threw me off a little bit, but I just looked into it a little bit and problem solved. So yeah, 3.5 stars. I would definitely be interested in reading more like longer work by this author. Next, I am going to be reading the Wayward Children books. So I'm not going to talk about the ones that I'm reading before. Well, it's only one. I only have to read Come Tumbling Down before I read Greengrass Fields. I didn't realize that Come Tumbling Down was following like the favorite characters that I have from this series, and then Greengrass Field starts with new characters and can almost be like a starting point, they say, which I didn't know this. Almost can be like a starting point to the series. People don't want to read like the full thing, which I don't know why you wouldn't, but that is going to be interesting to kind of read one that is potentially a conclusion of a story of some of my favorite characters in the series thus far, and then like be starting off like at a new jumping off point with the book that's actually nominated. So yeah, we'll see if that impacts my reading experience at all. I finished A Spindle Splintered today by Alex T. Harrow. I actually listened to this on audiobook. I didn't read my physical copy that I had. I got it from the library and it was fine. I would say the first part was better for me than the second. It kind of went off the rails a little bit at the end. But this is a story of a girl who has a chronic illness and has always been obsessed with Sleeping Beauty as like a sign of hope. On her 21st birthday, something happens and she is basically like transported into a story of a Sleeping Beauty. And so it's a little bit of a like speculative story, a little bit of like fantasy, but also almost extra dimensional stuff going on, like multiple alternate universes and things. So the first half I really liked. The second half was just like fine. I ended up giving it 3 stars, which is kind of what I expected from this, but it was okay. I like what it was doing with the themes of like Sleeping Beauty and fairy tales and having agency in your own story and like just commentary and stuff. Also it was sapphic, but not with the main character, more so like side characters and things. So yeah, had some disability rep, had some LGBTQ plus rep. Yeah, I now have, well, I'm currently reading a book that is not for the Hugos. I did read the book before Across the Green Grass Fields by Shauna McGuire, so I'm ready for that one, but I want to take a little break because that follows characters I really love. I think I mentioned it earlier, and so I didn't want to like be biased against Across the Green Grass Fields. So I'm thinking, honestly, like it's almost the end of June right now. I'm thinking, well, I mean, I have like a week left. Anyway, the next month is gonna be like all the novels pretty much. I'm hoping I can get to at least one of the novels this month, but I don't know. I just finished Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and that novella was such a surprise to me because it hit so many things that I love, and I never would have read it if I wasn't reading it for this. It might have knocked out A Psalm for the Wild Bill as the top spot. They're just doing two vastly different things. This is both a sci-fi and a fantasy combined with some other speculative stuff going on. One character is almost interpreting everything as being from a fantasy world, and the other character is interpreting things from like a science world because his people colonized this world years ago, and he's actually an anthropologist sent from Earth, like a distant future Earth, to study like this colony that they basically made. But all the people don't know about any of the science stuff, so everything that he does is interpreted as magic. And also, even the way that he speaks to them, because he has to translate to their language, they interpret as fantastical. So it's both science fiction and fantasy. Not only that, but there's some like interdimensional stuff happening, and there's also like sentient nature body horror stuff. It hits so many marks for me. So that ended up being a 5 out of 5 stars, and I might actually buy a physical copy because I loved it so much, and now I want to read more of that author's work, which I was already intending on doing, but now I'm excited about it. I think overall, that one might be my favorite, and then Psalm for the Wild Bill. We will see where Across the Green Grass Field sits. That's the second to last one. I also realized that I left out the Catherine M. Valente novella. I don't know how, maybe because I don't tend to like her stuff, but I need to read that one as well. So I need to get that one, and then the rest is the novels. I haven't updated in a hot minute because I've been sick. I got COVID. Don't know how. I got it during a week that I hadn't seen anybody except for outside at a beach on 4th of July. None of them are sick, so I don't know how this happened, but another fallen soldier. Over 2 years in, I hadn't gotten it, and now I have it. So this is the first day I'm looking even semi-presentable, but I wanted to update on Light from Uncommon Stars. I don't even know if I told you guys that I started reading this. I don't think that I did, but I read and finished this. This was fine. I liked it, but I didn't love it as much as I was thinking I would. People do talk about this being like The Wayfarers meets Good Omens, and this definitely felt really Good Omens-y. I mean, that whole thing, that whole description I think was really good. I just didn't connect to the characters quite as much as I do in like a Wayfarers book, for example. And there were like so many characters and so many different threads, and it felt like so sort of like eclectic. It was also a book that was definitely written for like musicians, like almost like classical musicians. You don't have to be into that to love it, but I think that like it's really gonna stick with you if you are really into like sort of classical music or playing like classical instruments or things like that. Where I didn't care so much, but the descriptions of music and food were the two like really big things. And I could definitely see this and me loving this as a show, because this did just remind me of the quirkiness of the Good Omens TV show. I haven't read the Good Omens book, but the Good Omens TV show is like, I can see this, like this, the way this is set up feels like that energy. So I gave this 3.5 to 3.75. I liked it, but yeah, there's like a ton of triggers in here too. I didn't really know what this was about going into it. Honestly, I don't think I even had read the synopsis before starting it. I just knew it was a nominee. People have been talking about it and said it was this Wayfarers meets Good Omens, and that's all I really needed to know. So I didn't really know what to expect going into it either. But yeah, it didn't just quite feel as fleshed out as I would have liked it to. So liked, didn't love. I am about 75% of the way into Project Hail Mary. I'm hoping to finish that today. And I did start She Who Became the Sun, but I think I'm gonna include this in my second reading vlog to kind of split up the books I'm talking about kind of evenly. But I did start this and I'm liking this so far, but I'm hoping to finish up this vlog with Project Hail Mary. All right, I just finished Project Hail Mary. I really liked it. This is my first Andy Weir. I didn't read The Martian. I've seen parts of the movie, but really had no interest. This was good, I liked it. Audiobook for sure. I think I wouldn't have liked it as much if I was reading it in physical copy. I originally started reading it in physical copy, and then I was like, this reads like it should be spoken to you. And all the science-y bits I think would get really bogged down if you're not super into the science-y things, which I don't really care about like the hard sci-fi stuff. I think that would get really bogged down if you were reading it physically. So the audiobook is so good, and with like the voices and everything, I mean, it's already, I think, award-winning as like an audiobook. So that would be definitely what I would recommend if you're thinking about reading this. But definitely seems to be Andy Weir's specialty of like man stuck in space alone and is very snarky. and narrates his story. So I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. The thing that kept it from being quite a 5 was because I did think it was so science heavy. It was intended to be, it's just like personal enjoyment wise, not my thing. Like during those parts I kind of glazed over it. The second part, this is maybe me being really cynical, is like, even though there was a earth-threatening situation in the story, like humans sort of came together a little bit, right? I don't foresee that happening if that were to really happen. So like the hyper-realism of all the science stuff, that's based on science, like a real science. And then that, I was like, I don't think this would happen. So it was a little bit too much of a contrast for me. She's being incredibly needy, obviously. 4.5 stars. And that's gonna be it for this vlog. I'm gonna do a second vlog with most of the novels in it. So I have 2 more novellas to read, but I will be surprised if they surpass the ones I've already read. So the 2 5 stars so far are Elder Race and A Psalm for the Wild Bull. I think Elder Race is my favorite of the novellas. I think. I just like what that did. I think more so because it like surprised me, where I knew I was gonna like A Psalm for the Wild Bull. I don't know. I've only read 2 of the novels so far, so can't really make proper predictions there. Project Hail Mary is 4.5, so that's like in the running right now for favorite. We'll see which one ends up being my favorite of the novels, so check in next time. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.